like I said, tomorrow is your last quiz, and we do have one more test, okay? Every quarter we've had 3 tests. We've already had 2 this quarter. And as I've warned you, this Chapter 9 is tough, okay? This is why I'm spending an entire week on 9.2. It's just because it's hard. It's hard stuff, okay? What we're moving into in 9.3, not that easy either, okay? So, and I have a feeling we're only going to get up through 9.3 before we have our last test, because I need to give you guys time to review for the exam. If you can exempt it, this would be a great one to exempt, but, you know, absences and all that might affect that. Okay, so looking at number, I'm going to do the one that doesn't have P. I'm going to do the evens with you. All right, so like I said, the first thing you're going to do is determine if you can factor anything in the denominator, and we can't. All right, so then we know we're going to create 2 new fractions. And there's a minus here, but you guys, as you know, I don't want to confuse you. There's a minus now, but you know you're going to be changing that to a plus in a minute whenever we get to that part. So if you wanted to do that now, that's fine. You decide when it works best for you, and I'll remind you of that when we get to that step. And then start with your numbers. We have 3 and 8. And what you're looking for is the first number that they have in common that is a multiple, not a factor. Okay, so if you needed to, you could sit here and go 3 times 1, 3 times 2, 3 times 3, and keep going. 12, where is it? What's that? 15, 18, 21, 24, and so on. And you could just pick up your calculator and do 8 times 1, 8 times 2, 8 times 3, until you get to the first number they have in common. Okay? And so that means we're going to have a 24 in both of our new denominators. We have one x here, no x there. We're going to keep 1 y here, no y there. And that would be our common denominator. Now, we changed our denominators, so we have to change our numerators. And we take them one at a time, right? So what am I multiplying 3x by to get 24xy? 8y. Very good. So whatever I do to my denominator, I have to do to my numerator. So 2y times 8y is 16y squared. Remember, you add those exponents on the y times y. Okay, then we do the same thing to our second fraction. What are we multiplying 8y by to get 24xy? 3x. Whatever we do to the denominator, we have to do to the numerator, and we get 24x squared. Put it all together under one denominator. Yep. I'm getting there. I'm getting there. 24xy. And this one's a little easier. We'll get to one in a second, number 6, where that negative can be really tricky. But here, we don't have to distribute the negative at all. So you could have, if you left it like this, you probably wouldn't have made a mistake, because it's just going to be 16y squared minus 24x squared. But if you did this, where you went plus and then changed it, then this would have been a negative over here, right? You would have 16y squared plus a negative. Either one is fine. So if you just put a minus there or plus a negative, either one is the same thing. Subtracting something or adding a negative is the same thing. Now, this would be full credit, but I'm going to make sure I sneak one of these onto your quiz, where if you notice that you can simplify it, and you do, I can give you some more credit, which is, do all of those numbers in front have a common factor, not multiple, a number that goes into all of them? And that would be 8. It would need to be the biggest number, because 16, 24, and 24 have a 2 in common. They have a 4 in common, but we want the biggest number. So if I divide all those numbers by 8, I would get 2y squared minus 3x squared over 3xy. So this would be extra credit. This would just be regular full credit. Okay? And I'm not going to tell you tomorrow which one can be done. Don't raise your hand and go, on number 2, if I simplify it, will I get extra credit? You just figure it out. Okay? If you miss it, that's fine. You won't lose points. Okay? All right. Number 4, if there's something I can factor, I would want to do that. And I am able to factor that second denominator by doing the GCF. Shh, guys, please stop talking. I'm going to factor a 6 out, and whatever's left over goes in parentheses. So you always want to factor just your denominators, never your numerators, as your first step. And then we go through that same process, okay? Let's go ahead and set up our new fractions. This one's got a plus in between. We love it when that happens. We don't have to stress about a negative. Not that we should stress, but you get the idea. And now we're just going to figure out what that common denominator is going to be. We have some numbers, so let's deal with those. What's the least common multiple, the first multiple that they both have in common, 3 and 6? 6. You're probably tempted to use 3 because a lot of times we're looking for the GCF, the greatest common factor. But hopefully when you got to the step where you have to say, what do I multiply this by to get this, you would catch your mistake. Because just think about this. Look ahead. If I had put a 3 in place of those red 6s, when I got to the step of what did I multiply this denominator by to get this, you can't multiply 6 by something to get a 3. Okay? So hopefully you would catch your mistake. We also have an x minus 3 in one of our denominators, so that has to be in our denominator over here as well. Okay, so we found our common denominator. And remember, even if you get this far, I'm going to give you some credit, okay? Try to show as much work as possible. So even if you get it wrong, I can say, oh, they did that step. Let me give them some credit for that. Okay, so in our first fraction, what did we multiply 3 by to get 6 and then x minus 3? Yes, times x2 and x minus 3. Okay, so I'm just going to take a little space over here. In my numerator, I have 5x, right? And I'm multiplying it by 2 and x minus 3, right? That's what I'm multiplying by. So put these together, that's 10x, and then just distribute. Okay, 10x times x is 10x squared. And 10x times negative 3 is negative 30x. Oh, this is negative 30x. Okay. Okay, what did we do to our second denominator to get our new denominator? Nothing. Didn't do anything. 6x minus 3, 6 minus x minus 3. We just keep it like that. Once we get to that step, we're going to put it all together and make it one big happy fraction. So I have 6x minus 3 in my denominator, and there's no like terms. And I don't care what order you write this in. I mean, standard form is preferable, meaning your exponents in descending order, but I'll take whatever. And there's nothing else we can do there. All right, always look to see if you can factor anything in the denominator. We cannot, no factoring there. Notice there's a minus, so we're going to be careful about that. This is that moment where you're going to decide what works best for you, doesn't matter to me. Are you going to put a minus here, or are you going to put a plus here? And remember, like I like the idea of making this a plus, which makes this a plus, okay? But then the negative goes to the 4. By doing that, you're not going to forget that, because in a minute you're going to have to distribute, you're not going to forget to distribute the negative, okay? Why didn't it matter on the first problem we did? Because there was no distributing, so it was just whatever was in our numerator was just going to be negative no matter what. You didn't have to apply it to anything. Okay, so guys, we have 2 different denominators. There's no monomial, single number like out in front, okay? It's just a plus 3, 5a plus 6. Both of them are going to be in our new denominator. Everything that's represented over on the left has to be represented over here on the right. So everything that's over there here in our given problem is in our new denominator. So, fraction by fraction, what changes from left to right? So I have a plus 3, and I want it to be a plus 3 and 5a plus 6. So I think you guys would agree we're multiplying the denominator by 5a plus 6. And I don't care if you show that step, but know what you're going to be multiplying your numerator by. So, you know, I can't get right there. So I'm doing 3a times 5a plus 6. Nope. What did I write? Yes, that's what I'm writing. That's what I'm doing. 3a times 5a plus 6. Distribute. 3 times 5 is 15. A times a squared. 3a times 6, 18a. In the second fraction, our denominator is 5a plus 3. We need also to have the a plus 3 in there. So I'm going to multiply the denominator by a plus 3 and the numerator by a plus 3. So now I remember, I'm not going to forget that that's a negative 4 times a plus 3. A mistake here would be to leave this as negative and change the 4 to a negative. You can't have both, okay? There's only going to be one negative, whether you leave it here or put it on top. Oh, it's a 4, negative 4, sorry. Negative 4, okay. Sorry about that. So negative 4 times a is negative 4a, negative 4, excuse me, times 3 is negative 12. Okay? Now we're ready to put it all together in one happy fraction. And again, the order that you put these parentheses in the denominator does not matter, okay? It's multiplication. Multiplication, 9 times 4 is the same as 4 times 9. Same thing with parentheses. Okay, and then look for any like terms. We've got 15a squared. He's a loner. We've got 18a minus 4a, which is positive 14a. And then negative 12 is a loner. Last one. Start with your denominators. Is there anything I can factor? Yes. The second fraction's denominator is one of my chart problems, right? It's a quadratic trinomial. I'm asking myself, what numbers multiply to get negative 12 and add to get 4? 2 and 6 are definitely my numbers. And then I have to decide which one is negative. Does it matter, guys? Yes, it matters. So pick up your calculators. Make a 4 out of these two numbers. Make sure it works on the other set, which it does. Harold, are you starting to get this? I feel like you're starting to get this factoring thing. I heard you yell it out just a second ago, and you were right. Good job, good job. Okay, so I have m plus 6 and m minus 2. Let's go ahead. Oh, we've got that negative thing happening. So deal with it how you want to deal with it, but be careful on this one, okay? And I'll tell you why as we go through the problem. Okay, in my first fraction, I only have m plus 6. I'm sorry, common denominator. I'm going to keep the m plus 6, right? They both have that. And one of them has an m minus 2. We have to keep that as well. So that's my common denominator. My first fraction is missing the m minus 2 in the denominator. So I'm going to put m minus 2 on top. So I have 4 times m minus 2. Distribute. Now, this is tricky. I'm trying to remember. I don't think we've seen one of these, or if we have, it's been a couple days since we have. There is a minus in front of a binomial. This minus applies to both of them, okay? So you have to think of it like this. We're changing this to a plus, fine. But where's that minus going? Is it just going to the m? it goes to the whole thing. It changes both signs, okay? This is minus everything in the numerator. And what a minus does is changes the sign. So when we made those a plus, like in the other ones, it was just like this one, there was just a 4 there. So we made the 4 negative. But we're doing the same thing here. We're just changing both of their signs. So anything that's positive became negative, anything that's negative became positive. That is going to be easy to mess up on, so be very careful. But at least we're done. We're ready to write our final answer now. And I am putting one of this level on the quiz. Number 7 is not like that, okay? This is only one I put on here. But you will have a problem on your quiz, number 8 even, where you have this situation occurring, okay? So look for any like terms. 4m minus m is 3m. And what a lot of people are going to mess up on is this right here. If you forget what I just said about the signs, you would have left your 1 negative. So you would have had negative 9 here versus negative 7, which is the correct answer. Okay. So we're going to be really careful with number 8. And if you guys are sweet to me and ask me nicely, I'll do number 8 again right before the quiz to go over that. You have to ask me though. I won't remember. Well, I think we're going to go. 0 in here. I'll move it up in a minute here. Here's number 8 in case you were still writing it. Now remember, these are the answers, not the work for 1, 3, and 5, and then I'll move it up for number 7 in a minute. Nope. Because if you're in factored form, Sam, you can't combine like terms. And that's what we're doing in our numerator.